So, kind of take two on this, unfortunately, as yeah, apparently I couldn't add Jack in if it was on my laptop, which is a little bit disappointing. But there we go. Um, so hopefully Jack will now be able to be added in. So yes, a couple of watchers already. Oh, it's everyone joining us now. Jack has requested to bring himself in, so I'll do that. Saying hello. Oh, everyone's joining. My headphones. Hello there, Jack.
How are you?
I didn't get to show. I'm a little bit disappointed. I didn't get to show off my shiny new laptop
Well,
and the
I
high
thought the
quality.
main reason you wanted to go live was to show off your shiny new laptop.
Right, I can now show off my shiny new laptop on home screen, but it's not quite what I had intended. So there we go. But
Yeah.
yes, yeah. So yeah, a whole bunch of people. So hello, Robert. Hello, B. Hello, Brett. Hello, Chris. Hello, Bryony. If you're all still watching, perhaps you are, perhaps you are not. But any a bunch of people are watching. What would you like us to talk about?
Yeah.
There's a few things we can talk about, but yeah, if you've got any requests, as we feel like those who take the time to watch us live deserve to be rewarded by actually hearing what they want to hear. So any requests, then let us know. How was your weekend, Jack?
It was all right. Yeah. Nothing particularly exciting happened. Well, I didn't have any gigs this weekend, so I played cricket.
Okay.
Um, and we absolutely trounced the other team. We got them all out for 62 runs, so we were very happy about that.
And if people don't understand cricket at all, that's absolutely meaningless to them.
It
That
is,
is
yes,
that
but
is a
I
very
don't
low
care.
number, particularly for cricket.
Exactly.
So there you go. Um,
Right, are you ready to start recording?
I am,
All
I
right,
think.
let's do this.
Hello there, Chris Piercy here of Wedding Industry Wisdom, and we're here as always joined by Jack Brister.
Hello. Sorry, you didn't ask me to say hello, so I was
Well,
completely thrown off there.
I thought you understood the format by now, so I didn't feel like it was necessary. Um, apparently, we do. Um, Already we have a discussion point. Costs. Brett Cyril says, I just had some magician offer me a gig for a ridiculous fee. I told him that it wouldn't cover my costs. His reply was, what costs are there on a local gig? My reply is pretty much you take all your yearly costs and divide them by the number of gigs you get across the year, and you get your costs. His reply was to tell me to go away, and I don't need to tell him what to charge. Well, I think this goes back to one of our kind of founding points of the whole group is that you have clients which are suitable for you and you have clients which are not suitable for you. One of the first things you've got to do is sort out who your ideal client is, go onto a website, and there's a little workbook you can download to start working with your ideal clients, because that just sounds like the sort of gig that you shouldn't even be considering doing. And obviously they're essentially doesn't that sound like a sort of thing like a time vampire might do, Jack?
It does, yeah, waste your time. That's a really good point, Chris. I think it's, before we come on to that very subtle plug you did there, Chris, I kind of want to just mention that it just happened, like, that just happens sometimes. And you need to accept that you're not in the same area, ballpark region as this other magician. So that just means that they're not the right client for you, and that magician does not work for the same kind of clientele. So you know in the future that if that magician comes to you and says, "Oh, can you do this gig? It's it's only down the road and it's a couple £100," and you go, "That's not my going rate." You know it's not even worth your time talking to him, because you know his gigs aren't going to be of the level that you want them to be in order to portray the image you're trying to portray and all those kind of things that we talk about. So yeah, you
Yeah,
definitely just need to accept that some people are going to be charging less than you, some people are going to be charging more. As long as you are getting booked and you are comfortable with your fee, then that is the kind of the most important thing, is that you are doing what you want to be doing.
Yeah, and it also works in reverse, so that when you have a higher price gig and he applies for it, you know that that's not his ideal client either. So he's not going to be the right person for the job because
Yeah, and Robert Kemp makes a great point. He says everyone wants to bargain, so just stick to your pricing. And
yeah
sometimes
they
that is exactly it. Some people
yeah and
do, and they're not right.
yeah. I mean, I don't think everyone wants a bargain. I think I have had a client negotiate upwards before, um,
Yeah.
which is an interesting concept. But yeah,
I've
not
had that happen once,
yeah.
where that's happened. It's generally for me, it's not at weddings, it's more at corporates that it happens, and it's because
Mm,
they have a certain budget they need to spend, and if they don't spend that budget, then they're going to have it cut from their budget for next year. So they
yeah,
say, well, what can you do for an extra X number of pounds? And you'll go, well, whatever you
yeah.
want, really.
No,
So
it's
yeah,
a,
that does happen. Not everyone wants a bargain, and that's just finding the right kind of people kind of thing. But
yeah.
yeah, you just have to get on with it.
Yeah, I think that it's one of the things that I've wanted to talk about in one of these lives at some point is the importance of understanding the value of not your own business, but of what other suppliers do. And that we've not, have we spoken about this before? I don't think we have.
I don't think so.
No,
I'm intrigued.
no. Well, I think it's really important that so I've had this before, and I'm not going to mention any names, but I had someone say that that they got a really high end client in, and I'm not even and they'd been booked by them, and they said, oh, I'll try and see if I can get you booked by them. Um, and so I was like, oh, cool, great. Sounds like my kind of client from what they'd said. They said, cool, I'll send an email across. So a friend of mine sent an email across saying, oh, I know this really, really good magician. Don't worry, he won't make anything silly disappear or whatever, or some sort of really lame kind of crappy, just like this is the sort of thing that just is completely off-brand for me, completely what a utterly cliched, and exactly what someone who, if someone hears, they go, I don't want to book a magician. So,
Yeah,
and I never heard from that client again, or never, no contact was ever made because that particular person didn't have the understanding of what I do at a wedding. Whereas, if you understand that, a makeup artist is not just lipstick and eyeliner, they're making the bride into the most beautiful version of themselves they can be. Having that understanding of the value of other suppliers, I think, in a kind of roundabout way, kind of will help you out in the long run. But having someone say, "Oh, I'll recommend you," and then say some really crappy joke about something or other, this instantly means that I was never going to
yeah,
get that gig. Um, so I think it's important to understand the value of other wedding suppliers.
definitely. And I think a great thing for Brett, I don't know if you're already on this, but you should definitely be signed up to our time hunting time time vampires. What happened there? Wow. You should definitely be signed up to our time vampires, hunting time vampires, 7 day course thing. What would you call? I don't really know what to call it. Like it's
It's
just
not a course. Well, it is. You sign up for it, and tomorrow is the last day you can sign up for it. After which it might become a course, which you might end up charging for. So if you want to learn how
yeah.
to get time wasters out of your business, Jack will put a link up, won't you, Jack?
Yes,
And
I
you can
will.
follow,
I will do that.
and you can click on that, and you sign up. It's completely free, and you get an email every day for 7 days, and each day, each email will tell you something to do, something actionable in your business to stop you getting time wasters. Yeah, so Brett, if you haven't signed up for that already, then do so. Robert Kemp says you will always get suppliers undercutting you. I say have a look at their reviews. We have zero. It speaks
For itself.
it
Yeah.
speaks for itself.
I'm guessing you mean zero bad reviews
Zero bad
in there,
reviews.
Robert, and that's exactly right. People are generally, and even when they're starting out, generally they're cheap for a reason, and that's generally because they're not of the same quality or caliber as yourself. So you just you need to know that, and you need to be happy with that, and just carry on regardless, and
Yeah.
just know they're going to be charging less, but know why you're charging more.
Yeah, and it's all just a fundamental lack of understanding of the value that you bring to the day, or something along
Yeah.
the lines of that. I mean, this is all stuff that we've covered fairly conclusively in previous lives.
Mm.
But yeah, the Time Vampires course. I don't know if it's a course or whatever, but yeah, get yourselves on that. Last chance to sign up. We'll mention this again towards the end, but yeah, we're closing the registration for that at midnight. We're not sure when we're going to open it again,
Tomorrow.
if ever. Sorry, tomorrow at midnight it closes. Not sure when we're opening it again or whether it will be free. But within that is a new thing called the Anatomy of a Perfect Sales Call, which will be a product which will be on sale in the not too distant future, which you'll get for free if you sign up. You'll have to buy it later on if sales calls and getting them right is something you're interested in. Um, Okay, let's just have a look at the comments here. So Rob says, I always say have a look at reviews of other suppliers. They have 0. We have 50 plus. Speaks for itself. Um,
Exactly. Yeah. Bang
yeah,
on.
I mean, I do think, however, as much as I do agree with Robert, I do think that Facebook reviews and Google reviews in particular are a bit of a fallacy to a certain extent because I think it's very. I don't know if it's like because I only deal with good suppliers, but I think all of them just have 100% 5-star reviews.
True.
And even suppliers who I know are bad have got 5-star reviews.
Yeah.
Because I think that it's very easy to give a 5-star review because I think people tend to give a 1-star review or a 5-star review, which is I think why Facebook changed it from being this kind of 5-star system to can you recommend yes or no, because that's basically what it was anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, obviously reviews are very, very important. Social proof is definitely something which has to be considered. But yeah, prior to that, I think it's about showing a level of expertise, showing the value which you can add to someone's day, and explaining that nice and clearly, and just yeah, like you said, sticking to your pricing. I mean, I think that's such an important thing to do, and no matter what, no matter where. I mean, I had this yesterday, and this bugged me. So hopefully the person who inquired is not going to watch this. I don't think they should because it's not for. But they got in contact and they said that they were getting married midweek in the winter to save money. I was like, fair enough, not a problem at all. I can, and we want your full day package because we want you for this bit, we want this bit. Oh, I also heard you can do a performance in front of everyone, etc., etc., etc. And yeah, I said, cool, yeah, I have this package, got them on the phone, got chatting, explained everything I could do, said this is exactly the package that you're looking for. Normally it's this much. Because you're getting married on a Thursday in November, it's £300 less. And also, if you book within a week, I'll throw in this, 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 and this, which was like 1,200 quid worth of extras. I mean, Jack, you know that how I sell
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
people, yeah.
Yeah.
So, having taken £300 off, having said if you book within a week, you'll get £1,200 worth of extras for free. They then asked me if I do it for £45 cheaper. It's like, and it took a lot for me to just not just hang up
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I said, but I think this is the time when it kind of your experience comes through as a wedding supplier, because it could have been really easy for me to go, oh, it's only 45 quid, but I think that it's just rude at that point. So my response was simply, unfortunately, that's the lowest I will go. I have taken £300 off for you already. Plus, I'm throwing in this, which is worth £395. I'm throwing in this, which is £395. I'm throwing this, which is £395. I'm also giving you a free copy of my book, which is £15. So the price is what it is, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And they were like,
That's exactly right.
yeah, and like very, very easy. I mean, 45 quid is, I could have just gone, yeah, that's fine. But, there's bartering and then there's flat out taking the piss. And
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
haven't got time for the latter. I mean, yeah, you've given them a fantastic deal. They should be snapping my hand off of that. Because the thing is,
Yeah.
it's a year and a
And
half away.
yeah,
I'll get another
exactly.
inquiry for that date.
Yeah, and Robert says he doesn't give discounts for weekday weddings because his service is exactly the same.
Yeah,
You can't really argue with that logic at all. We've also got Ross Wilshire, I believe that's how you pronounce it. Apologies if it's not. He says his reviews have helped him to sell his people to see his USP,
Yeah.
um, about how he works, and I think that's great. That's a very good point. Is that if you can get your clients telling everyone how good you are and what you do, then that's a fantastic place to be because you're not having to do the selling; other people are doing that for you. So that's a great point about using reviews to their advantage. We've also got Fee Chambers Clark saying, I have something similar. Bride been let down by another artist, wants me to knock off £150 because that's what the other artist was charging. Um, and
So
that, I
yeah,
mean, I've
do you know what my favourite response to that is?
go on.
I can let you down for 150 quid less as well if you like. Which,
Yeah, I mean, they paid £150 less. They didn't show up, so well,
yeah, I
they've
mean,
cancelled on them.
yeah.
What do you
Rob,
expect?
yeah, Robert said, "Wow, we don't give discounts for weekday weddings. Our service is the same."
Mm.
Yeah, I to a certain extent I agree with that. However, I think that if I think Robert's a fairly new member, as far as I'm aware, Rob, are you in
I
wedding
think, judging by
transport?
his Facebook picture, he's in wedding transport.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, wedding transport. That's the sort of thing I can understand it being exactly you charge exactly the same thing because depending on the vehicle, and I know that with things like VW campers and stuff like that, they're only allowed to do a certain amount of trips per year. The fuel's obviously going to remain the same, and the driver's going to want to earn the same amount of money, so the costs are exactly the same. The same thing like with cake makers as well. They're not making the cake on the wedding day or whatever. But for myself, it's a case of supply and demand. I mean, I can get 10, 12 inquiries for a Saturday in the summer, a Thursday in November next year. Yeah, there's a chance I might get 3 or 4 inquiries for that date, but that could potentially be the only one. So supply and demand suggests that I'd rather just get that filled in because
Yeah, I think it depends on what area of the industry you're in. Sometimes it makes sense to offer
yeah,
discounts, but as we've said, Robert, in your industry, you are 100%. You have fixed costs. We don't have huge fixed costs as magicians ourselves, but
yeah,
you have quite high fixed costs because you've got all the insurances and all of the cars you've got to run and all those kind of things and maintenance and all that stuff. So you need to be charging a certain fee that is consistent across the board because otherwise it's not worth your time going out in the first place. So yeah, I think if we move on, there was a question. I just need to scroll back up to it because it's gone off my computer from Stephen Hancock. I don't know if you saw that one, but he was asking about sharing workflows with new wedding inquiries to your website from people who haven't met you before, and giving some advice and tips on that. I don't know what your initial thoughts are on that because I know you generate a lot of business from people who haven't met you before.
I think that in general, I mean, and I think this needs to be answered as non-industry specific as possible because I think there's a whole different range of people
Sure.
watching. But I think that it's got to be value first, and I think this is something that we repeat time and time again. I mean, and I think me and Jack have got a very. I mean, I think the reason that me and Jack work so well together as I hate saying it, business partners,
What?
yeah. But we are essentially, is because we have a very, very similar ethos, and I think that we follow people in business and agree with the same people in business, like Gary Vee, like Nicholas Kuzmich, and people like that, who are all about, getting the value to people up front first of all. So in terms of workflows and the kind of the content that you're sending out to people and the follow up, it's got to be value first. So I think that in terms of how my workflows work, I have as soon as someone makes an inquiry, there's a welcome email will instantly go out to them. That will explain about who I am, what I do, and it will explain the next steps, explain about whitelisting me, adding me to their safe senders so that future emails arrive. Call will be scheduled in with them. They can book that in online, or I'm quite a fan at the moment, to be honest, of actually sending a text straight away to people saying, "I just got your inquiry through. You've said that you're happy taking a call after 5:30. Is it okay to call you after 5:30 today?" because people tend to open text messages and people tend to respond to them. So I found that's quite a nice way of getting the ball rolling. I don't like proper conversations and proper business dealings across text message or WhatsApp or anything like that. But I think as an initial, hey, I've got your thing, make sure you've got my email, etc., it's a good way of starting out. I kind of
Is
went
that
into it.
automated or is that manual?
That is literally just a manual because I want to be able to. It's only going to ever be 1 or 2 text messages, so I want to make that very personal, based upon what they've said in their initial thing. Because for some people, I feel like I want to do that. For some people, if it just says call anytime, I'll just call them whenever. Whereas if they say I'm free after 5:30, I want to make sure that that's the same at the weekends as it is weekdays or whatever. But slightly tangential there. Just
Yeah.
to, and then I'll get on the phone call. The phone call will be then followed up with a email with my quote, and then the follow up from that is encouraging them to book across a few emails within a week because there are massive bonuses if you book within a week with me. If they don't, that's absolutely fine. And then from there, they are then followed up with various different useful blogs from me on. I'm experimenting with the timing. I've had it before where it's weekly. At the moment, I'm going down to monthly, especially for longer term inquiries, just to kind of keep me fresh in their mind, but not trying to sell after that week because if they were really interested in booking me, they would have booked within that week. So after that, it doesn't mean they're not interested. It means that they are not a fast laner, they're not a quick action taker. So they are probably going to be nurtured on a more long-term basis. And I've just, as I've mentioned, going on a bit now, have set up an RSS feed so that any new content will be going out to them on a monthly basis. So if I write a new blog, that will be going out to them. So yeah, that's what that's Stephen says that's really helpful. So I'm glad that it
Yeah.
is. So I'm just on another
Yeah, I
coding
think
rant. So there we go.
I thought it might have been. The key thing to remember is that it is coming from value first, and you want to, if you haven't met them before, which I think is what Stephen's talking about here, is that they're coming as a cold inquiry essentially. Then you need to work out what your first step is. Whether your first step is to get them on the phone or to meet them in person. And the reason I say that is that Robert's put a comment saying he always likes to meet his bride and grooms so that they can feel comfortable around him and all that kind of stuff, which I think is a great point. It depends on your industry and your specific niche within our industry as to whether that's relevant. For some people, they don't have to have that connection and it can just be a phone call. But for others, it's very important to get there in person. I feel like photographers, it would be really good to get there in person. And as he said, a transport person would be quite good to get that in person. But you just need to be aware of what your goal is, whether your goal is to get them on the phone, meet them in person, or whether you want to deal entirely via email, which is possible. I wouldn't recommend it, especially if you're sort of starting to target the higher end of the market, because people want that level of service that you just don't get via email. They want something slightly more personal, all that kind of stuff. So you've got to be very clear in your mind where you want to get the bride and groom to, and then be trying to get them there.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people have said to us in lives in the past how they're not comfortable on the phone. Um, it it's a skill. Flat out, talking to people on the phone is a skill. So if you're not comfortable with it, it's only going to improve by doing it. Okay, I mean, even if you have the world's shortest sales script and you just want to give them a 2-minute call and say, hey, just wanted to introduce myself quickly just so you can put a voice to the face or whatever, that sort of thing, just kind of ease yourself in slowly to it is a great idea because I think that when myself and Jack have done the Yes Do I Do podcast, every single supplier we interviewed on there would speak about the importance of the connection between the couple and the supplier, and how no matter what industry, whether there's a photographer, makeup artist, hair, whoever, all saying how important it is to them. And if it's important to the supplier, that means like it has to be important to the couple as well. The amount of couples who then end up being friends with their suppliers afterwards is huge. So building that connection initially, getting that rapport is really, really important. And doing it on the phone is absolutely, it's, I can't see any reason why you wouldn't. I know it's a scary prospect, but it is something that can be learned, and it also avoids the chance of miscommunication as well. I mean, the written word, you know, can be misconstrued if someone reads an email whilst in a bad mood, they can possibly take something in the like a jokey kind of comment in a really really negative way when it was actually kind of that was not how it was written at all. I mean, if you've ever had an argument by text before, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah, great to avoid that sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. I think that kind of wraps that question up, and Stephen's very happy with the answer, so that's good. What else did we have coming in prior to us going live, Chris? I know you kind of had a list of
There
things
was
that people.
there was a couple of things that were so one was about the the idea that if you charge less, you'll get more bookings. Um,
Can we just say no to that's not true right now? Or do we have to
um,
go into detail about it?
I think that the question comes down to, I mean, 'cause I think if you're looking at charging £20 less, £30 less, £40 less, £50 less, something like that, you know, if someone's going to pay £300, they're going to pay £350. So all you're going to be doing is taking money out of your pocket. If the only way it's really, really going to make a difference is if you're reducing it by such an amount that you're then dealing with a different set of clients, which is not what you want to be doing anyway. So it's much better to add value in for that price if you feel like that's the reason people aren't booking you, rather than just taking money out of your pocket. Because before you even consider dropping your prices, then I think you need to be unequivocally certain that the price is the problem. Because you could be guessing, you're probably guessing, unless you actually had people saying time after time after time, you're too expensive, then you could be completely wrong, and then you're reducing your price for the wrong reason. It might be that, yeah, that you may be worth the money, but your website looks rubbish, or I don't know what. We don't think your service is good enough for that price. They're happy to
Yeah.
pay it, but the service doesn't look good enough. Or it could be anything. So you want proof before you make any dramatic changes like that.
But there's also another way of looking at it that isn't that you're charging too much, it's that you are targeting the wrong client.
Yeah,
For example, so if you're at a price where your product is good, your service is like working on the assumption that your product is worth the price you're charging, your service is worth the price you're charging, all that kind of stuff, that we're kind of working on that assumption that the price is justified for what you're doing, then there are two possibilities. There are more possibilities, but there are two key possibilities. One is you're charging too much, and two is you're targeting the wrong clients. I mean, there are nuances within that about you're not very good at selling, your website's not very good, all these kind of things, but they kind of tie into those two options.
yeah,
So you kind of need to work out, and the best way to work this out is to ask the people that aren't booking you why they're not booking you. And you just say, just when they email you or you're on the phone and they say, oh, that it's not right for us, we don't want that, we want we're going to go with someone else. You can just email back and say, great, perfectly understand that, it doesn't work for everybody. Just out of interest, because I'm a bit nosy, why have you decided not to go with me, or why did you go with this, or what, essentially, why are you not booking me? And some people will never respond to that. But if you phrase it correctly, and you phrase it in a nice, kind of friendly, jokey way, people will come back to you and will tell you. And then from there, with more certainty what your problem is.
yeah. I think that you shouldn't be too. You shouldn't be afraid to ask why someone hasn't booked you. I mean, worst case scenario, they don't answer, and then if they give any answer, then it's information. I mean,
Yeah,
you've got to. It's all got to be taken with a pinch of salt, because it's for every person. If they say, oh, it's price, we just think you're too expensive. That doesn't mean you're too expensive. It means you're too expensive for them. So it all just has to be taken on board as information, but it doesn't mean that just because someone said something, you have to implement it. Stephen says, repricing the 2019 Hit survey said the average amount spent on a wedding is I'm not saying all of those numbers.
The
32 grand.
32,000.
Yeah.
I would like to say publicly that I call that number bullshit. Uh,
Um,
or it's correct, and there are a few very, very high-end weddings that are pushing that number up dramatically. Because
yeah.
I don't think the majority of weddings are in the region of £32,000. The
I don't think
weddings
so
that
either.
Chris works are in the region of £32,000. The weddings that I work at are more than £32,000. But I feel pretty confident that the majority of weddings, the majority of people have, are not £32,000.
Yeah. I I'd be interested as a maths
Yeah,
person.
you want to know who they surveyed and what the
I
survey number was and all
I
that
want to
stuff.
see. No, that is probably the mean average. Um,
Yes, it will be.
whereas I would probably be more interested in the median.
The median. Yeah, I would want to know the
Um,
median average as well.
because, well, for instance, the wedding that I'm working at on Saturday, they've got a 10 grand budget for fireworks.
Yeah,
So you can imagine, like I mean, that's probably a 90 to 100 grand wedding,
yeah,
something like that, and that just a few of those skews things massively.
yeah.
So
Exactly. Like,
it'd be very interesting to see, yeah, who they surveyed, um, and also whether people were completely honest.
well, there is always that, isn't there? Because people do like to. They don't like to admit that they spent less than they did. I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I think that people also want to say, oh, the dress was like 2,200, call that three. Um,
Yeah. I did see the infographic. So Stephen's just said it was from an infographic he'll send to us. I did see it, and I thought that was bullshit at the time. So, but yeah, it has
yeah,
all the different areas of the UK, and it's got different pricing, but it's on average around thirty-two
yeah,
thousand
I've seen
pounds.
their previous years ones. I wasn't. Yeah, I saw the 2018 one. I hadn't seen the 2019. And it could be right. I don't know. But I think regardless of what the average is, it doesn't really matter.
No.
I think that you're still, you know, you're not going to base your pricing around what the average is. You're not going to say, okay, well, I want to be 10% of their budget or 5% of their budget. You're just going to go, this is my price.
Yeah,
Because,
if
right,
you are going that way round, it's a bit of an odd way round to do it because you're never going to get a true average spend for a start because it's always going to change and adjust and things are going to happen. That means it's not a fair representation, and also it's just like how can you be the judge that 10% is the right amount in that example? 10%
yeah,
is the right amount for them to spend on you at their wedding. You're better off finding out a price that you're happy with, that you want to be charging, that you're comfortable with, and your product and service is worth, and all those kind of things we've spoken about many times before, and charging that, and then finding the clients that will fit that budget.
yep, absolutely right. Um, Something that we go into in a little bit of a certain amount of information on our free course, How to Run a Successful Wedding Business. You can sign up for that at weddingindustrywisdom.co.uk, and also there's the paid version of the course as well. But we do go into details of ideal client and how to package yourself up. Seems like it's more part of
Yeah.
the sales, which I cost less than 3% of. I'll be completely honest with you, Stephen. I don't think people care about that, and
Yeah,
I
I think
think
that's a really
I think
poor.
it's a really odd way of trying to convince people, because if you're trying to convince people on the numbers game, you're selling in the wrong way entirely. People make their sales, their purchasing decisions, sorry, I should say, on emotionally. So if you're trying to say, oh, it's less than 3% of the average wedding budget, then it's not, that doesn't mean anything to them. It's something that they don't want to know. That they want to know how you're going to impact their day. That is what they're really, really interested in.
Yeah,
They want to know how what's
and
going to change as a result of
yeah,
you being there. Not it's less than 3% of the average wedding budget. It's
and
yeah,
it's going to alienate a lot of people because it's people who haven't got a £30,000 budget
yeah,
who have got less than a £30,000 budget are going to go, oh, we haven't got a massive wedding. We haven't got a massive budget for our wedding. I feel a bit. Oh no, I don't. I don't feel like I definitely can't afford a magician if we have less than an average size budget in this particular example because Stephen's a magician.
Mm.
And then equally, people who've got £100,000 budget, for example, are going to go, well, if he's talking about the average wedding, I don't care about the average wedding. I want the most amazing wedding ever.
Yeah,
So I
you're
think you're going to
alienating
alienate
both.
a lot more people than you're going to be hitting, unless, of course, you're
Speaking to someone who's spending exactly £31,974 on their wedding.
exactly. If your ideal client is someone who spends £31,000, £974 at their wedding day, then you are bang on, Stephen, and you are nailing it.
He has now retracted that point.
Oh, yeah, sure he has. I've seen that.
I apologise for the abuse. No, but I think there is a really important point to take away from that is that yes, you are absolutely correct in the numbers or whatever. However, it's not that is not going to be the difference between you being booked or not. I mean, no, I mean,
Yeah.
I would be amazed if anyone would ever say that line, and then the person on the other end of the phone goes, "Oh, less than 3%." Well, send me the booking form. It's, it's not going to happen. Yeah, it's yeah, it makes the suggestion that people are booking on price, and people don't book on price if you're selling correctly.
Yeah, and one of my favourite lines that I've ever heard you use is people buy on emotion and justify on logic. So you want to be selling to them on the emotional side.
Not mine.
And even when it comes to talking about logic, this is not logic. This is alienating, in my opinion.
This is nerd alert.
Yeah, I mean, it may really attract some people, but it's going to offend or alienate a lot more people than it's going to
I think
attract.
alienate is the word there. So
Yeah.
no, I mean just tell them what it is. Tell them the actual price. Don't say, oh, it's this much, which is less than 3% of the average wedding.
If that's part of the sales pitch and you're already having to justify to them before the number is even tumbled out of your mouth, then you need to come up with a price that you're comfortable with, I think.
And practice saying that.
And practice saying it a lot. Yeah, as we say, talk to yourself as a magician, you practice in the mirror sometimes. You should do the same with your sales pitch.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Yeah, there was something else that wanted to be covered. I think we've
yeah.
hammered Stephen to half to death there on that one. So move on and give him a chance to breathe. There was someone who wanted to talk about, I think it's Ross actually. I don't believe he's watching anymore. I was going to say he's no longer with us, but that's something different.
No, it's not quite as finite as that.
There's not, yeah, he's no longer watching live. He was wanted to hear a bit about brand consistency, and that is something which I think is really, really important. That's something that we do cover in the free version and the paid version of the How to Run a Successful Wedding Business course, and it's something that I'm actually working on myself at the moment because having just you as well. So having just redesigned my website, which I'm very, very happy with and is doing incredibly well for me. So I'm pleased that I did it. I'm now also about to go into, Stephen says he's in the corner licking his wounds. Yeah, so I'm about to go into wedding fair season and I need a new brochure. So I'm currently trying to decide exactly how much my brochure should mirror my website. Now I'm kind of going into it thinking it should almost look like it's been pulled from the very screen and looks exactly the same as my website, so that when someone looks at the brochure and then goes from the brochure to the website, Ross is
Ross
alive.
is here and
Oh,
alive and
oh, thank
watching.
goodness. 'Cause that, I mean, if you hadn't been alive, then I would have felt pretty bad for a long, long time. Not not that it would have been my fault directly, but anyway, we digress. But yeah, I currently feel like it. Yeah, it should feel like the brochure itself should feel like it's been pulled from the website itself. So that if someone is reading the brochure and they go, loving the look at what this guy's stuff, loving the reaction shots, loving all of this, love the look of these packages. I'm going to go onto the website. It should feel as if they're metaphorically turning a page of the brochure and landing on the website, and it's the same fluid experience from one to the next. So I'm trying to make it look exactly the same, but then I'm also acutely aware that a brochure and a website aren't the same thing. So I'm trying at the moment. I'm trying to decide exactly because I sent you like a quick draft of
Yep.
the front cover, and Jack said it wasn't terrible, which is about as that's actually a compliment from Jack.
It's a compliment from me. Yeah.
So I'm guessing that means it was actually fine.
I know it was. Yeah, and that is a great thing to talk about because you are actively doing it at the moment. Yeah.
Jack, talk for 5 minutes because I have to go for I will be back, everyone. Talk about brand
Okay.
consistency.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to tell him what you're off to do. His partner very conveniently ordered a Tesco delivery between 7 and 8 tonight and then decided to go out. So Chris has had to deal with it and get it in. So that's why Chris is gone for a minute, but I will talk about it. So Chris, as he said, is currently rebranding and it's kind of tweaking his brand ever so slightly. And so I've got a couple of questions I will ask him when he comes back. But you really need to be looking at where your brand sits and you need to keep consistent with that. So obviously you need to keep consistent brand colors going the whole way through the site, through your website and through your branding, through your brochures, through your roll-up banners, through your business cards. All of the colors need to be consistent and stay the same. And obviously your logo needs to stay the same. I feel like those are kind of fairly obvious points, but then you kind of need to look at it going deeper than that. Because if you go onto Chris's website, he has lots of kind of angled moments going on throughout the page. He's got some angles going all the way down, and he's trying to recreate that within the brochure as well. He wants to get it recreated in the brochure because that's kind of become part of his brand. So I imagine it's then going to move through to his new banners, which I feel like he's going to need to get designed, and also his new business cards. So everything is going to kind of have that new angled look, and it's something you need to kind of look at as kind of a big whole thing. So it's not just the colors and the logo; it's how the kind of the website holds together, or how the whole brand holds together. Because Chris is a little bit different and a little bit unique, these kind of angled things work quite nicely for him and really kind of show off what he's doing. Whereas for me, being in the market that I'm in, doing what I'm doing is very classical and it's very traditional. So for me, having all of these like sharp angles going off in different directions doesn't work for me. So I know that, and I know it would alienate my audience. So I stick with more straight, right-angled lines because it just works better for me and my brand, with kind of some swirly bits here and there just to make people feel happy. So I'm interested, Ross, because I didn't see the comment when it came in, so I'm imagining it was on the welcome post. But I'm interested to know what it is that you do. So if you could let me know what it is that you do, then maybe I'll be able to offer a little bit more advice, a little bit more specifically for you. But it's all about finding the thing that's important and what's going to appeal to your target audience. Ah, he's back.
Did everyone leave?
Everyone left. There's no one here now.
Did you say anything interesting?
No.
No.
I was talking about your angles, like how you're trying to get that consistency from the angles on your lines to go through the website because you've got to go all the way through there onto your brochure, and I imagine it's then going to make its way through to pop-up banners and then onto business cards when they get all the redesigned as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's something that I think I'm completely sold on. However, I sent the website to Laura Dean, the photographer who ripped you to pieces on the other podcast before.
Yep.
And she said, "Oh, I hate it." And I was just like, "Oh, why is that?" So like, I'm a photographer. I like straight lines, and
Yes.
I can completely appreciate that. So I did actually take on board what she said and kind of reduce the angle on them. But I just really like the look of it because I think it makes it flow. I think it draws the eye down and encourages you to carry on reading down through the page. That may be, I mean, it's entirely anecdotal, me saying that, but that's just how I feel looking at myself. Um, so Ross says, I'm a photographer with a boom and a book, I'm assuming that is, and a podcast,
Yep.
and just want all my posts and marketing to be consistent across all three without being confusing.
Okay, I understand. Right. Cool. I
So
just asked Ross what his problem was. So
yeah, so I I'd say from my point of view that as long as they're all targeting the same market, because I'm actually that's my brain's just recalling now. Yeah, Ross mentioned that this on the welcome post we put earlier. So the book
Yeah.
is about how to have a wedding as unique as you are, and the podcast is about the same
Of the same
thing,
title, if I
of the same
vaguely
type.
remember seeing this,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, so I think that I do think that the branding should be consistent across the board. I mean, potentially less so with the book because
So my big thing about the book is that once that's printed, that's printed. So
depending
it's
on how
more
he's printed
difficult to
it.
get, depending on how he's printed it, of course. But it's more difficult to get that to change with the brand when the brand when you redo your brand and you start changing it a bit, unless you've got it printed through something else, some other
So
system that means
with
it's
my
not.
book, with my book on KDP, I can just change the front cover, and next time they print some, it'll have a new front cover.
Oh, okay. In which case, I take that entire thing back.
But if Ross has gone out and had 1,000 books printed by someone, then yeah, your point completely stands. So it depends on how it's out there. I mean, my book has no links at all in terms of brand consistency with any of my wedding stuff at all. It's entirely different because it is slightly. It's less about my book's about how to stay stress free through the wedding planning process. It's not about a fun, quirky magician or whatever. So it's got a different feel to it, although it's kind of
But it's
aimed
still
at the same
consistent
people.
though. It's
It's
still
still
consistent with your brand because it's got the same colours in it on the homepage. So it kind of fits in with the brand. But it's not going, hey, Chris Piercy, the magician, wrote this book.
yeah, good point. Yeah. Um, yeah, Russell, I'm looking to rebrand and bring the book colours in more.
Right, okay.
Yeah. I don't think it's that important. What I think is that the book cover should be good. Uh,
Yeah.
I think it should be eye-catching. It should like instantly say, "I understand what this is all about." In terms of the brand consistency amongst the other things, I don't think the books is that important with the book. Whereas the podcast and the photography business, I do think do need to be linked inherently, whereas the book it can stand out completely differently because if anything, it could be on the website as something which does stand out. People go, "Oh, wow, that's caught my eye," because it is different. But I don't. But it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be so different that it's like, "Ugh." But am I making sense?
Kind of. Yeah, I get the point you're trying to make. And yeah. So,
You're probably the only one.
yeah, probably I would have thought so. And that's because I've spoken to you too much, so I know exactly where your brain is trying to go. But essentially, Ross, it needs to be consistent, but it doesn't have to be matchy matchy. Because if it's matchy matchy, it's kind of looks a little bit eh. Just like it kind of makes me feel a bit funny. It's really hard. I know. Yeah, I
You're
now I'm trying
explaining
to
this about
explain
as
it.
well as I did. Ross says, thanks, that really helps. It opens up my rebranding
I'm
options.
amazed that helps, Ross. I'm absolutely
I
stunned.
think Ross just wants
That
to
was.
leave. It's like, Chris, Jack, we've just met and you're confusing me even more.
But you're right.
I
It does open up your rebranding options a little bit more because it does mean you have a little bit more consistency. You can be consistent without being exactly the same. So if we have kind of the colours going through, and if you were like Chris and you had those angles and you were kind of playing off that, then maybe put those consistently through. But beyond that, I don't feel like they have to be exactly the same. You can kind of play around with it a little bit more. And you can check out Chris's book and then check out his website, and you'll see that they are consistent in that they are the same colours and it looks classy and elegant like Chris's website does, but that is it. There's no other relevance to it at all.
Yeah, I think that there's 2 points to make. That you can be consistent and not be the same, and you can be consistent and be different, which I realize is a
Yes.
bit of a yeah. Because I just to kind of take a kind of step back and look at the wider world of marketing. Um, when you look at a company like what would be a good example? Um, Look at something like Nike, someone like that, or that they will have they know who their ideal client is exactly, um, and but not all of their shoes are exactly the same. But people will buy multiple different pairs of shoes from them, which are of different styles, but they still appeal to the same ideal client. So just because a certain type of branding appeals to your ideal client doesn't mean that's the only style that's going to appeal to them. So something which is in a completely different set of colors or in a completely different style, it still can appeal to the same ideal client and still fits in with the brand as a whole. Did that make sense?
That made sense. That was good. You got there eventually, and we finally managed to explain it efficiently, I think. Um, so Ross says he'll check out your website, Chris. So make sure
I'll
it's
get a
working.
visitor.
Yes, celebrate. Have a glass of champagne. I totally get that. That and beyond the visual, the message is the same in the book, podcast, and the website. So if the message is consistent, and the visuals kind of are consistent the whole way through, then people will know it's from the same place, even if um, they don't outright say Ross Wilshire, photographer extraordinaire, wrote this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you're going down the right road with that, Ross, for sure.
And also, I think fair play to Ross for having a successful business and a book and a podcast, because only legends can have that holy trifecta.
Does it? Who else has that holy trifecta, Chris?
Well, I've got two podcasts, so I don't know who else has just got
You've got two podcasts, a book, and a
and
successful wedding business.
a wedding business.
A wedding.
I have been to a no no I know
No, so I mean, if you wanted to get really technical, Chris, you've got two podcasts, Amazon best-selling book, a podcast, an audio book, and a successful wedding business.
and an iTunes top 10 worldwide podcast if we're going to get
We did, yeah, there is that as well, yeah.
there is that, but
We're not bragging.
we're not bragging because it's a really
No, no.
rubbish brag when we look at, especially the Amazon best-selling one. That's just embarrassing.
That is embarrassing. You hate it when people bring it up.
Well,
Shall
it's
we
the sort of
move on?
thing yes.
I feel like we've already done that one to death. Do you want to talk about what Ricky mentioned? Because he actually asked us to talk about this before we went live today, about scaling your business beyond just you.
Yes, I do want to talk about this, but I think that it has to come with a disclaimer that it is. Well, you were the one that said you wanted to put a disclaimer. So, what was the disclaimer you wanted to add before we?
Essentially, we don't do this. We've not done this. We have zero experience of actually doing this. We occasionally give out the gigs that we can't do to people who we trust,
Yeah,
but that's kind of the extent of our knowledge of this. But we kind of understand the theory behind it, so we're going to talk about it in kind of broad strokes more than anything else.
yeah. So, just to what Ricky wanted to know. Ricky is a magician, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not.
Yep.
I'm not on kind of sort of on first name terms with him, but not really. Ricky was talking about earning money outside of just doing what you do, going to the weddings and earning the money because if you're ill and you can't perform or whatever, then you don't get the money. And essentially, that most people within the wedding industry and the large majority of self-employed people find themselves in a situation where their life consists of swapping their time for them for money. So
Yeah.
I'm in that situation pretty much. Jack's in that situation pretty much. Obviously, with the growth of wedding industry wisdom, we're starting to move away from that to a certain extent because we're not directly swapping to our time for money when people are buying our courses or our whatever. But we are still within that to a certain extent. So what we're on about is getting passive income or growing your business to the point where you can earn money without having to leave the house. Now, the problem that a lot of people are going to have, and I think this is going to apply to over 50% of the people who are in the wedding industry, is that because you sell yourself as you and you create that connection with people, it then becomes very, very difficult for anyone else to want to book anyone apart from you. So I get a lot of inquiries. I get way more inquiries than I can deal with, and then I try to pass them on to people, and then the clients end up going, "Well, we wanted you because
Yeah.
we were sold on you from your website, so we don't want to book anyone else now." And that's not me being egotistical. I think that's just the nature of what happens. If you really get sold on the idea of something, then when you can't have that, you don't end up buying at all. So that there is that issue with it. So I've said a lot about saying anything so far.
Yeah, so I think that yes, Pete, that is the main issue with what we do, is that as wedding suppliers, we say, well, our unique selling, certainly as magicians, especially as magicians, we go, well, you're booking us. You know, the unique selling point is like I may do the occasional trick differently to you, or I may do a different trick to you, but ultimately we're doing magic tricks at a wedding day.
Yep.
It's how we deliver that makes us different from everyone else. So it becomes very hard to get to the point where you're able to create a passive income doing that because we are the selling point. So they are booking you to be at their wedding day. So if you did want to go down this route, the first thing you'd need to do is build out a generic business as a magician. So I'm going to try and make this as broad and general as possible, so it doesn't apply just to magicians. But at some point, I may refer to that specifically because Ricky asked the question. So you start off by building out a generic business that does not talk about you in any. So it's not booking Ricky, or it's not booking Ross, or it's not booking Jack, or it's not booking Chris. It is booking. I suppose if you take my brand, it would be booking a luxury magician,
Yeah.
in inverted commas, because my brand is the luxury magician. So that's what you'd be booking, is a luxury magician to turn up at your wedding day. So that's what you need to do in the first instance, and then you need to build out a team of other magicians or other photographers or other suppliers, whoever it is, whatever it is that you do, who are of the same. So this is where it gets a bit tricky. I would say of the same level as you,
Yeah.
but struggle with the business side of things. So there is, I mean, I'm not going to name any names, but there are some people I know who are extraordinarily talented magicians who don't get work themselves, so they have to rely on agents or they have to rely on other magicians handing out work to them, despite being incredibly talented magicians. So, you need to build out, you need to find other magicians or other photographers who share the same ethos as you within your business as a photographer, magician, florist, whatever it is, and work to the same standards as you, but can't do the business side as well as you can.
I think
So
though, like,
that, go on.
so I think that the problem that you then have is that the reason that people will pay so much money as they pay for you, or slightly less, but still pay a hefty sum of money for me for performing, is because they get sold on me. So I
Yeah,
think that people are gonna struggle to develop a generic brand of magician or photographer or whatever it might be, that's going to be anything else apart from bang in the center of average pricing, because you're not going to be able to sell yourself at that higher rate. But if you're earning commission on sending those people out to work, then it doesn't matter. But yeah, it's a really really difficult thing to do. I mean, I think that there are certain parts of the industry which lend itself very well to things like catering. That's obviously you know to a certain extent styling. But again, the people have still got to have. If you've got stylists which you're sending out to do a venue, they've got to love and care for that wedding as much as you do. So there aren't many really really scalable areas of the wedding industry because it is such a personal business. So
yeah. And I mean, one point I would like to make, keeping this as generic as possible, is that I imagine in every industry or every sector of our industry, there is at least one company who does this and has built out a scalable business in that model. But don't get drawn in by the fact that they may be doing, in inverted commas, really, really well, and maybe turning over whatever it is. You could go on Company's House and you might see that they're turning over X number millions of pounds a year, or whatever it might be. But that is an irrelevant number, really, because the majority of that money has got to go on the staff that they're hiring and the people that they're actually sending out to do the job. So when you get down to it, the amount that they're actually making will probably be the same or less than you're currently earning at the moment.
Yeah, and I think that
That's my
that's
opinion of it, because I mean, I've seen it happen. So sometimes, while it sounds like a nice idea to have this big business, it's a lot more headache and a lot more stress for not any more money most of the time in our industry, because there is only so many. I mean, there's thousands of weddings every weekend. I appreciate that, but there's only so many you're ever going to be able to penetrate and become part of.
yeah. And also, I think that like the just stepping back and looking at the broader question that Ricky was saying was that he was saying that what if I get ill or whatever and things like that. I think that you need to be putting yourself in a position where you are charging enough money and putting away enough money that should anything happen, that you don't have to be do, doing that and booking time off. You know, I mean, your business model should include a healthy life work balance as
Yeah.
well. So I mean, that's probably the bigger question which needs to be looked at.
Yeah. So, in my opinion, and Chris may disagree with this, but in my opinion, you should have in the bank 18 months worth of salary if you can get to that point. I appreciate that's very easy to say, but it's not very easy to do, because that is usually quite a large number
Mm,
for quite a lot of people. 18 months can be 40, 50, 75k, something like that. It could be a
yeah,
huge lump of money that you need to have in your bank account or your business bank account. And this is kind of then moving into finances in general, and I don't want to touch on this too much, but you should have even if you're self-employed, you should have a separate business account and a personal account. They should not be mixing together. And you should, if you can do this, you should have a bank account, a business bank account, that can be another personal account. It doesn't have to be a business account, because you will have to pay for a business account. So it could just be personal, but you dedicate it to your business, that pays your personal account every single month. So you essentially get paid a salary, and that money that goes into your personal account is then used for personal spending, and then the stuff that stays in the business account will stay in the business account. So you will be getting paid even when you're not working, because you will have a reserve in your business account that can continue to pay you if you go ill, or if you have a month where it's quieter than normal, all of those kind of things. But I just wanted to kind of touch on that point very briefly.
yeah, and I think that's just good, solid business advice across any industry whatsoever, really. So yeah, what are we announcing today, or are we just not for
We're
now?
not announcing it. We're just going to talk about. We want to talk about very briefly that today and tomorrow, although when the podcast goes out, it will be the last day to sign up for How to Kill Wedding Time Vampires. For those of you who don't know what wedding time vampires are, we recommend you check out the page. It's in the link above. I will also pop it in the comments again, if I can find the comments. Hang on. And this will, on Wednesday, the first email will go out, and you will be getting 7 ways over 7 days to essentially reduce the amount of time wasted you get in your business. Because we all get them. We get people who suck our time away and are not worth talking to. These are, people that just get in the way of doing the important things. So it's a completely free thing to sign up for. And Chris, why have you just waved at me?
It said it gave me the option to, so I thought I would.
Okay, fair enough. So It's your 7 days to reduce time vampires by 50%. That's over 7 days. You will get one email each day with one actionable step in order to save yourself some time. And we have, I say we, Chris has very cleverly designed this around time vampires and vampires in general. So on Wednesday morning, you will receive an email about how to use garlic to stop your time vampires. Then you'll get an email the next day about sunlight, and then the wooden stake, decapitation, holy, and then it gets a little bit weird. Holy water, fire, and the sacred bullet. I think Chris ran out of ways to kill vampires at some point in that.
That is just what that was the top 7 ways that I found on Wikipedia. So
Oh
um,
yes, that fountain of knowledge.
it
So
is a
that
fountain. Vampires aren't real, so
are they not
time
blowing
vampires
my
are
mind?
though.
They are very real, and you need to get rid of them from your business to save yourself some time. So if you want to find out more about that and you want to sign up by Tuesday the 20th, I think it's tomorrow, isn't it?
That's correct.
Tuesday the 20th at midnight, the sign-ups will close, and then at 9 o'clock on Wednesday the 21st, you will receive your first email about how to kill time vampires and save yourself a load of time. If you're interested in that, click on the link below in the comments. If you are listening to this on the podcast on Tuesday, head over to weddingindustrywisdom.co.uk/how to kill time vampires, and that is with a hyphen between each of those words, because we like to make it a little bit difficult for you. And you will be able to sign up there. There's a couple of sign up forms down there. But if there's anything else you want to add, Chris?
No, I think that's and for all your other wedding business growth needs, head over to weddingindustrywisdom.co.uk. Check out our online course, our website audits, our paid courses, and we'll be live next week, probably Tuesday, not Monday, because it's my daughter's birthday on Monday. So I'm gonna,
Oh,
so I'm
enough to make you sick.
um, for you, yes, with your stone cold heart.
I
But thanks
know.
for those who've joined us today, and we will see you for another video soon. Bye bye.
Bye.